Welcome to the Busy Central Lounge event and our session about news in legislation and localization in Busy Central, where my colleagues Predrag and Artur, together with me, will try to explain what is new in this area for specific countries, but also in delivering legislation features available as a global features. And of course, do not forget, the localization process is one of the most important. Agenda for today doesn't look so complicated. We will first explain some details about legislation scope, then first show some result of the localization effort, continue with improvements in regulatory features, and we will finish with one new interesting topic, new report setting feature. So let's start. Instead of explaining legislation scope, I will explain our legislation mission. And this is making organizations compliant with various set forth by government regulation agency by providing features that automate regulatory tasks so organizations can focus on their primary business. It sounds good. So what is important? Being compliant and try to automate it wherever it's possible. Sometimes automations come later. As first, we need to deliver feature on a basic level on a time, but they are always something we are thinking about in the first place. Today we will show in detail some of our new features, as we cannot show all of them. But this is exactly why we made this list to show in more details what we have done in this area. You can see, for example, we are starting with enforcing digital vouchers, e-documents, and these features will not be shown in this presentation because you can find additional sessions related with enforcing digital vouchers and completely with e-documents. Then you will see EU three-party trade, automatic account codes, registration numbers, new format in audit files, Intrastat improvements. Again, we will not show non-deductible VAT improvements because this is something we already delivered in previous release. Then some VAT date improvements, again, independent session, and so on and so on. You will see a lot of interesting things today, but you can just see that we deliver much more in this period. And except previous list of features, we also deliver new set of countries. This is very important for extended market. Actually, these new countries will be available from December this year. To be accurate, we added to the cloud new 23 countries with this release. From December this year, our cloud solution will be available on 155 markets around the globe. Markets, I think, on countries or regions. Let's look in details what are we planning and what we did in previous period related with the global features and localization. Our localization and delocalization strategy is based on 4 pillars. First pillar is to enrich our core base application. And this is something many of our teams are working on every day. I explain it in a detail for a minute. Then everything what cannot be used as a global feature should be delivered as extension, as the local app. This local app can be for one country, if this is only for one market, or maybe for 2 or 3 countries if this is some regional. But again, we are treating this as a local app. So idea is to have one base app, globally one base app for all countries. This is idea, but this is, as we said, strategy. Idea is strategy and probably very long process, but we are going this direction. Of course, in a parallel idea is to bring Business Central Cloud to all markets where we see traction. And as I just said, we are on new 23 countries with this wave. This is a huge effort. And last but not least, everything what we are doing now is on the first place optimized for accessibility. So you can easily extend functionality if it's not 100% fit with your requirements. For example, we cannot deliver everything to be fit with all your needs. And what we need to do, we need to look to make as simplified UI as possible to be 100% fit with 80 or 90% of markets. If in a few countries something more is required, we want to create this extensible so you can easily extend this feature to be 100% fit on your market. And this is not only with markets connected with market, this is always connected with specific industries, because some specific industry will need a bit more, so you can easily extend all our features. This is trend what we are doing, and we are looking in this in the first place. If we look at how we can enrich the W1 base app, and already do, these features can basically come from 2 sources. We have features that exist in different flavors in various countries that we can rethink and refactor with a global mindset and put into W1 base app. Not only W1 base app, you can see in this pyramid, there is base app, but there are global apps as well. One of the biggest examples from previous release, not this, but previous release, was non-deductible VAT as a huge effort. It was in 3 different countries, different architecture with Belgium, Norway, and Italy. And now we delocalize completely functionality and deliver to this as a W1 W1 feature. But enriching the base app can also be with new features we don't already have. Over time, doing this will allow us to scrape off layers of localization, ultimately ending up with a smaller localization footprint. Now, I will not talk about details, what is new in enriching base app from this perspective, because you can see in application legislation parts on BC launch event, many really good new features. But as we talk only about this new release, the best examples of the localization effort and moving these existing flavors to base app or some of global apps are EU three-party trade and automatic account codes. Now my colleague Predrag will explain more about these 2 efforts, and before these 2 efforts, he will first explain completely the localization, country delocalization process, and now show more about these 2 new features. Predrag.
Thank you, Alexander. One of the most important pillars of localization strategy, as mentioned before, is process of modularization and open sourcing local functionalities, so-called delocalization process. So let's take a look on the localization status right now. Prior to this release, we had 3 countries completely developed on top of common layer, the so-called W1. With this release, we will have 1 more country, Sweden, where we completely removed the Swedish local functionalities into app. The idea is to have other countries delocalized also, and the next one going to be Iceland. The global plan is to be a little bit more aggressive on that way so that we can achieve that goal in near future. Let's now take a look on the timeline to get Swedish localization completely removed. This is also important to understand because all other functionalities that are going to be deprecated going to follow this plan. We started the process of delocalization with version 22, and then with version 23, which is going to be released on 1st of October, the local specific Swedish code will be marked with tag obsolete pending. That will actually mean that in next 3 releases, users will be able to use these functionalities, old functionalities on the same way. But this is also signaled that in version 26, all this new functionalities should be enabled. After that, old code will be tagged with obsolete removed tag and will be accessible only through the upgrade code. Finally, with version 29, a whole specific Swedish code will be deleted from the base app, with the exception of tables. And then in version 30, all local tables with data will be completely removed. It is important to notice that a process of deleting code is not following the same pattern as deleting tables, as we are deleting tables in every 5th release. Now let's take a look on those 2 apps that we got from Swedish delocalization process. So the first one is European Union third-party trade app for purchase transactions. This app should help customers that are receiving a purchase invoice from customer in one EU country, and the product are sent to different European country or region without entering the country of residence. In some European countries, in order to stay compliant, it is necessary to report such transactions to the VAT reports to actually be aligned with the VIS requirements. Now with Business Central, it is possible to do that. So let's take a look how that can be done. By creating purchase transaction, now it's also possible to define that transaction is actually EU three-party trade transaction, as you can see in this example of the purchase invoice document. After posting such a document, user will be able to navigate to the VAT statement and For demonstration purposes, I added a line which will actually include only EU3 part trade purchase transactions. There are also other options to include all transactions or to exclude EU3 party trade transactions. After running this report, user will be able to get filter transactions in one of the lines. So that it will be so they will be able to report this to government. The other app that we prepared here is automatic account code app. One can use customized posting group to automate recurring transactions in journals, sales, or purchase documents. These posting groups can be used through Business Central to trigger automatic posting and allocation across different accounts or dimensions. When this can be handy. So for example, when posting total salary expenses at the end of the month, you can use automatic account codes to assign percentage of the total salary to automatically post as overhead expenses. Let's take a look how that looks within the product. The first point is navigating to automatic account groups page, where user can define automatic account group. And in this example, you can see the metrics of how the allocation will be applied. As mentioned before, department code and project code can also be defined. From this point, usage of automatic account codes is pretty simple. I will use sales invoice as an example, but it can be also used from the journal lines. Navigating to the sales document, to the sales line. Now I can define my automatic account code. And after posting, results should be the set of GL entries, which are actually created based on the previously defined metrics, as you can see. So those two functionalities are going to be available in other European countries. With that, I will pass to Artur, who will continue presentation on other features that we delivered with this release.
Thank you, Frederick. While the VST registration number is required during registration in certain countries, in other countries, there is additional registration required by authorities, and that leads us to add the additional field that is called registration number. This registration number field is added in multiple places across application: company information, customer, vendor, and contact cards. And the important part is that when you add this field to the contact card, it will be copied to the customer or vendor card, just like other fields. Audit File Export. Audit File Export is a functionality that provides an interface for extension to export accounting and tax data. It allows you to work with different formats, like Norwegian SFT, Swedish SIE, and French FEC. For this functionality, it's possible to schedule execution to out of work hours. It is also possible to run the parallel processing for better performance, and provides a various of options, like splitting the data by months, by date, exporting to the zip archive, or exporting with additional information. Let's talk a little bit more about the audit file. The important part of this functionality is that it provides you an ability to define the data to export. You can export master data, you can export documents, and you can export ledger entries. So at every single point, you can define what kind of data you want to export. The second part is GL account mapping. Authorities required to map your chart accounts to the standard accounts when you export the data. And Audit File Export extension provides you the possibility to do this. And last but not least, the architecture of that solution. The Audit File Export extension needs to be extended by the specific format expansion. So Audit File Export extension provides you the following things. This is GL account mapping, interface for data source, interface for data check, handling of audit file document, scheduling execution, and parallel processing. While the specific format expansions implements the data sources and define what exactly you want to export, and implements the data check to check what data needs to be verified before export, and audit file format itself.
Okay, thank you, Artur. Let's see what we have more about regulatory features. Let's see what is new in Intrastat. Before I continue with this topic, you will see here use dropshipment for triangular Intrastat trade. And first, what is the triangular trade at all? Triangular trade involves trade between companies located in 3 countries or regions where goods bypass the reporting company's country, as our country, for example. In BD Central, you can use dropshipment as a standard feature to handle triangular trade. But for Intrastat to use dropshipment, you must turn on include dropshipment toggle in Intrastat report setup page. Now, when you enable this feature allows for scenarios where a company orders goods from one EU country and dropships goods directly to another EU country without importing these goods into its own country. Classic bypassing dropshipment. In such cases, the Intrastat report will exclude all these transactions because the goods were directly delivered between 2 other European Union countries without entering into our country. The calculation is based on the following information from item ledger entries. Entries are marked as a drop shipment, and country region code in item ledger entry is different than country region code on the company information page. Okay, that's not all. Just don't forget, Intrastat is now localized for Czech Republic as well, so all countries with new release now will use new Intrastat module globally. Okay, this feature about dropshipment triangular trade on the first sight is small, but definitely important improvement. And it proved that we are dedicated to continue improvement for existing features, not only for Intrastat, but for Intrastat for other features we are creating. That means we will not stop when we deliver this feature. We will continue to improve this in the next period. Okay, now finally, new report settings feature. So Predrag, can you continue with your presentation?
Thank you, Alexander. With Wave 2023, we are also introducing improvements in report formatting. Before introducing this change, it was not possible to change the formatting in reports from the application, and the reports would always be formatted as per My Settings page. In cases when language in report has been set to different language than the one that it is defined in My Settings, for example in customer or vendor card, the only way to change format in that report would be to change the format in My Settings. This was, of course, tedious and error-prone process, so we are trying to introduce the support for original format on the same way how that was implemented for the language. This list shows how format can be defined for particular reports by priority. So, the latest change will support user to define both language and format on the request page of the report. We have also introduced support for setting up proper format from AL code on the same way how it was done for the language. Finally, using the same pattern, it is possible to define specific format for specific customer or vendor. At the end, if none of above was changed, language and format from My Settings will be used for printing the report. Let's now take a look how it looks like on different pages. So this is the newly introduced property on the request page, where now within Advanced tab, it is now possible to define format region and language for that report. The new thing is also support for defining format region directly from the AL code, so that current report object now has property called format region. Third option is to define the language and format region for specific customer. So this is the same pattern that we used for language. Now it is also possible to print reports for particular customer or vendor by definition within the vendor or customer card. As mentioned before, if none of above was changed, the fallback mechanism will use region and language from My Settings to print the report. We are hoping that with this feature, we will provide more flexibility for the users working on the report, at the same time non-breaking current experience. With that, I'll pass back to Alexander.
Okay, thank you, Predrag, for such a good presentation about new features in report settings. This is definitely a really good feature, what you can see. And before we finally close this session, I would like to call you to watch all Busy Central launch event sessions, but these three are really important if you already watched this session, because they are continuation of that and really connected with these features in these sessions we just showed. This is introduction in electronic invoicing or electronic documents. Then what's new about VAT date is a really important improvements. We will explain much more in details what is new and to clarify some other let's say issues. And using of enforcing digital vouchers, again, a really important regulatory feature we deliver in this release. Yes, I would like to invite you also to join one of these groups or communities. If you cannot remember all of them, try not to forget AKA MS BC All, where you can find all our resources on one page. Okay, thank you for watching this session, and please watch other sessions for this launch event. Thank you.